Symbols have great power. Ours, just 6 simple bars. The Chinese I Ching sign for the creative. A sign chosen by chance when 6 friends met at the company founder's home.
Wayne had been to China and had been reading about the I Ching and the throwing of the coins and what all the various symbols meant, and thought it would be fun to have the company represented by this insignia. So he said, okay, we'll all get together and throw the coins.
And what happened is everybody threw a straight line. I mean, it could have been a straight or a broken line, so it was a 1 out of 64 possibility that this is what you would have. And those straight lines are what the Calvert logo is derived from. And the straight lines stand for perhaps the most powerful symbol of the I Ching, which is the creative.
From a symbol to success. What began as 2 college friends creating a new way to invest and an ordinary sounding company name has grown into an award-winning leader in social investing and fixed income products. Virtually every Calvert investment milestone had a simple beginning.
You've heard the story about how Calvert got its name with us being on Calvert Street and looking out at the street sign and saying, yeah, it's a good name, kind of thing.
Most investors don't realize Calvert's 30-year success story began in a small Washington, D.C. townhouse. Actually, founder Wayne Silby's home.
Had almost a dozen people come to work here every day.
Cab drove up, and here's bicycles and rakes and shovels and whatever, and I said, oh boy, what is this all about?
Here we have the kitchen where we would have the auditors, and also had an isolation tank, which was a float tank that people could lay down in and decompress, and kind of a super meditation capability.
I was in the dining room, yeah, the auditors were in the kitchen.
I mean, we had phone closets in here that must have had 25, 30 phone lines.
And we went up on the 3rd floor by the hot tub on the back porch and discussed starting a tax-exempt money fund.
In this room, we'd easily invest $10, $15 million every day over the telephones.
It was fine as long as the housing inspectors didn't come, because they're saying you're conducting a business out of a residential location. And Wayne was living there, so he said, no, this is my house. I just, have some friends over.
I lived in the basement, and we had a dozen people come to work here in the morning. So literally, later on, I moved up in the world.
From the start, Calvert was different. A pioneering financial firm where it was nearly impossible to find a buttoned-down Wall Street financier.
I was riding in the van with Wayne and John, and I'm asking them these questions about, well, so what should the culture be? And they're saying things like, we want to say that being weird is a good thing. Okay? Thinking outside the box is a good thing. Or, being willing to test the edge of the envelope is a good thing. So I'm writing this all down, right? We got out to this conference center, and the next morning we presented this, and people said, oh, this is really great. It must have taken you months to put this together.
Wayne had this business card that said Chief Daydreamer. He came up with the ideas, and John was the business partner, I'll say, to try and implement the change.
For our transfer agent in Kansas City, they had a dress code. Can't wear sandals, can't wear sleeveless. So every time I went to Kansas City as the client, I would go and I'd wear sandals, I'd wear a sleeveless dress. I'd say, folks, this is what reality is like. And Calvert's been able to maintain that, and it's terrific.
And what started it all? A simple money market fund.
Where people didn't even know what money market funds were. Banks are normally paying 3%. And we were presenting this new alternative to them, which was disruptive in the financial markets.
It did very well. We were the #1 fund for 10 years.
Calvert's assets roared past $1 billion. Suddenly, Calvert's managers were famous.
For a year and a half, they've tightened 11 straight times.
Expenditure, it makes sense for them to cut their energy.
You're only looking at one short-term aspect of performance.
And the Calvert Group, which was an activist in the anti-apartheid divestiture movement a decade ago.
Before Calvert, most Americans paid little attention to what they invested in. As long as the funds performed, they prospered. In 1982, Calvert changed that view by starting the nation's first family of social funds.
We were also the first fund to say we're going to take 1% of our assets and invest them at below market rates of return in order to further social justice issues in our society. And at the shareholders meeting when we proposed this, one shareholder said, how about 3%? And the crowd started clapping. I was like, well, let's try 1% first and then we'll see where we go.
Investors responded, including longtime Calvert client Jean Milgram, whose parents were both social investing pioneers who understood that doing good can create good yields.
I always believed in saying money should be available for social purposes. So yes, it feels very good. You realize you can achieve more than one objective through the use of your money.
When I would talk to people and tell them that Calvert was socially responsible, and I'd get this laughter. This isn't the kind of thing that people would invest in. Calvert continued to grow, and a lot of these complexes that thought socially responsible investing was just this thing on the side to laugh at and not to be taken seriously, I think are starting to grow up.
Calvert's global community includes experts who care about leading social issues. Often, Calvert calls on those experts. Calvert trustee Rebecca Adamson helped Calvert become the first mutual fund that screened for indigenous people's rights.
This whole thing with indigenous peoples was a first. I mean, no one, absolutely no one else was looking at this issue. What's been so impressive about the Calvert shareholders is they make sure that their investments go to companies that uphold and believe the same values of humanity and common good.
If a company isn't making good choices with respect to the environment, to how they treat women and people of color, then they're not making other good choices. And so an investment isn't a good idea.
Investors often only see the trading floor glitz. Fast-talking, high-flying, day-trading wizards. It is something Calvert has frowned on from the beginning. That philosophy has brought some of Wall Street's best and brightest to Bethesda, including award-winning taxable bond team leader Greg Habib.
Well, who are the other leads in the deal? It's fulfilled my expectations way beyond what I expected, and the assets that under management has grown from 300 million to we're practically at 6 billion. The funds that I manage have won awards, have won over 10 awards.
Okay. Calvert's success proves that investors can combine their bottom line with their social values.
I'll sit it right in this groove.
Calvert actually gives each employee 8 hours a month to do community service.
We're very proud of that. I think it's one of the things that makes us an employer of choice.
This is the first job I've had where I can honestly say that I feel like my efforts are appreciated and noted from the top down.
We do great work, and we also enjoy doing what we do.
Finding opportunities requires extraordinary people. Calvert has grown its team with the same care it treated investors, with respect and compassion, with a workplace that's become the envy of the nation.
To create inclusive workplaces, particularly underrepresented populations in corporate America, like women, minorities. We can't afford to leave half the population on the sidelines.
In just 30 years, from a small company built on principles to a respected leader in social investing and fixed income fund management. Diversity, social investing, empowering every worker. Calvert's never lost its founding philosophy, doing well by doing good.
Calvert is really built on the dollars of hundreds of thousands of individual investors. 55% of our shareholders are women, so we have really a broad client base and a lot of investors that are counting on Calvert for their long-term investment needs.
Calvert management team is, I think, stayed in a way that if they want to make something happen, it can happen.